Hola, it's Joe Pardavila, and you are listening to the Forbes Books podcast. And if you live in and around the New York City area, you're not lacking for events to attend this summer. But if you're looking to learn more about the future of technology near one of the most beautiful stretches of beaches in America, look no further than Hamptons Tech Week, which runs July 18th through the 21st. Today, I'm joined by the producer of the event and the co-publisher of James Lane Post, Christine Prydatko. She's here to talk about how it all came together and why she decided to bring the world of Web3 to the Hamptons. Christine, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And so it's funny, with Hamptons Tech Week, you don't necessarily associate tech with the Hamptons. You associate people who invested in tech or founded tech companies living on the Hamptons, but the idea of this sort of this conglomeration or this sort of meeting of the minds about tech in the Hamptons seems odd for someone who doesn't live out there. Am I strange by asking that?
You know what? You're absolutely not.
Okay, good.
It definitely is something different, but that's kind of what I wanted to do. I feel that it's, this world of Web3, there's so many Web3 curious people out there. Mm-hmm. But I kind of saw this need where, like you said, there's a lot of people who invested in tech or founded tech companies that are out here. But now with this whole world of Web3 and crypto and NFTs and blockchain, I really wanted to do something different out here and kind of have like an educational conference to kind of take a dive into it that's really Web3 101. And what I mean by that is I've been fortunate enough to go to a lot of the other big tech conferences, and they're all incredible if you really understand the space because they go a little bit more granular and they can also be a little intimidating. So what I saw was a need of people and friends of mine and colleagues that were like, what does this exactly mean? Because how do we kind of scale it back a little to build out like the fundamental foundation for this whole new world?
It's the old entrepreneurial conundrum, right? Find a problem, fix a problem. So you noticed that there wasn't this kind of event or sort of club, so to speak, for people to get together and do this. So when did you notice that there was this gaping hole in the tech world at the Hamptons?
I think for me, it was more about, as you know, I'm a co-publisher at James Lane Post, and I also joined the Ethereal Global team this past January. And after talking with both companies, I kind of realized that with James Lane, I wanted to do some sort of signature event with the publication. That was like an annual thing that can turn into something annual. And then with talking with the Ethereal team and just how, with Ethereal Global, it's more about taking in real life companies and integrating Web3 onto their platform. What I realized though was like before you can do that, and then, tech isn't a big thing. And it just kind of, after going to these conferences, was like, okay. I think that maybe what we do is like, let's have the conversation and let's do a conference that's just, nothing too insane and really aim to educate guests on how Web3 is enhancing and progressing a variety of industries that, are effective out here in the Hamptons, such as art and real estate, sports, environment, fashion, while giving industry professionals a space to network and learn.
Has anyone else tried to do something similar to this out in the Hamptons? I mean, I know the Hamptons is known for just having all sorts of parties, whether they're serious or not. But has anyone tried to do anything like Hamptons Tech Week in the past?
Not that I know of in the past. I do know recently I've been seeing more like luncheons to talk about NFTs and you kind of see people starting to dip their toe a little bit more into it. And what I realized was at first it was like, you're crazy, tech has nothing to do with the Hamptons, you're nuts. To fast forward, everyone I talked to was like, this is great. Wow. This is awesome. And, we really wanted to make it a really integrated ecosystem on all fronts that, not just how it's affecting real life industries that affect us like art and real estate and sports, but also, what to look for when investing and what are the legalities of this.
Interesting. Christine, do you see this being a blend of newbies who are new to Web3 or the folks, the early adopters of Web3? Do you see that kind of mix in the conference?
Absolutely. I think the mix of the conference is, the panelists are people who are more experienced in the field. And I think a lot of the attendees will be a mixture of Web3 curious and wanting to learn more to kind of understand it, as well as, experts in the field. Because, a big part of this whole Web3 experience is community building. And my thought process is, if you go to the more granular conferences that are great for people in the industry, how are you getting more people to join your community if there's so many people outside of your community that are like, what does this mean?
We've mentioned Web3 a couple times here. For the uninitiated, what's an easy entry point into understanding what Web3 is?
I think an easy entry point is, we don't want to focus on all the digital hype, but it's more of understanding the NFTs, the blockchain, the crypto, and how you can use all of that as utility for your existing company or starting a company in this space. Web3 kind of encompasses all the things that you're hearing about.
Excellent. And you know what I find what's kind of fascinating about this kind of conference in the Hamptons, and I kind of joked about it earlier about the fact that there's so many, tech people out there. You're also sort of blending the new tech people that are out there and the folks that have been on the Hamptons for decades who maybe are sort of slow to dip their toe into Web3. So do you almost feel like there's a matchmaker vibe to this as well?
Yeah, I think that there's, it's bridging the gap. And we actually have a panel that is going to be hosted and moderated by Jacqueline Brennan, who's the co-founder of Feely Tribe. It's about bridging that gap and leveraging data to break the barriers. I think there's a disconnect, right? Because you have older generations that are more investing. They're investors, right? They've invested in all kinds of companies. They've invested in maybe tech companies that were easier for them to wrap their head around. But then the younger generation is doing this, Web3 NFT. And it's kind of like, well, why am I buying this digital piece? Or what crypto do I purchase? Like how do I understand what to do with the money and how to invest? Which is why we have some panels about that. And I think it's just to give a more clearer understanding of what it all means.
And how do you do that? Because I always joke with a lot of the entrepreneurs I talk to about the early adopters. Like they're an easy sell. Like they are going to be the first ones onto NFTs, crypto, what have you. It's that next generation or sort of like that next wave of people. Are these kind of events like Hamptons Tech Week, are they essential to sort of growing that community as it's not just the early adopters, the folks who see beyond what's in front of them, but will see what's in front of them by 100 yards in front of them? Do you think that's sort of the key component to Hamptons Tech Week?
I think it's one of the components. I think that this industry is constantly growing and changing right now, right? It's so new, and they're coming up with all different types of ways to do it and how to integrate it. And I think it's a combination. I think we need the younger generations that are kind of new to this space, but also maybe a little bit caught onto it a little bit quicker than like the forefront people, like tech investors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so can we talk about some of the events you have scheduled there? You mentioned a couple. You mentioned the one with Jacqueline from Feely, but what else is going to be going on during Hamptons Tech Week?
So we have a few like networking happy hours. We have 2 days of panels where, we decided to bring in some of our past collaborators, such as Feely Tribe and Nova Impact. We have Logic Tree coming in to help us build out a really fun directory. And then, we have a real estate panel with some of the really wonderful real estate agents out here talking about how this space is affecting real estate and nonprofits. Obviously, what's really wonderful about this whole Web3 industry in this space is that it's almost like giving back or doing good is kind of naturally integrated into a lot of the work.
And that's sort of like your work too, because you do a lot of social entrepreneurship. So this is sort of like a perfect fit for you as well, right?
Yeah. Obviously, in some of my other companies, I do a lot of give back, which is, I think, so important. And I love that you can see this more in this industry and in this field, giving back in a very more seamless manner where it's kind of built in versus like having to do a charity event.
And what's been the reaction to by the folks in the Hamptons? They can sometimes be described as a snooty crowd and don't like interlopers coming in there. I don't mean to just keep bashing up the Hamptons, but for folks who are not familiar with that world, they know that it is what it is out there. So how have they reacted to Hamptons Tech Week and the preparation for it?
People are really, really actually excited. And I think also too, one of our other partners for Hamptons Tech Week is the Southampton Arts Center, who is absolutely wonderful. They actually have a exhibition right now called Techspressionism, Digital and Beyond. And the show reflects the expressive potential of electronic media. And it's curated by Colin Goldberg, and the exhibition includes the work of more than 90 artists working with technology from more than 20 countries around the world. And I think that the Hamptons are starting to integrate tech into things that they do. And I think like having an exhibition like this up, and it'll be up through Hamptons Tech Week, so anyone who comes and anyone who's in town can go and check it out. It's incredible. But I think it is different. I think for years out here, there's always been food and beverage events and, obviously a ton of nonprofits events, which are always wonderful to support. But I just wanted to do something different, kind of switch it up a little bit.
And one thing I've noticed about you, you're a serial entrepreneur. So this is sort of like right up your alley. Like, even though you've never done something like this before, it seems like everything that's different comes easy to you. Is this a right description of Christine?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not easy.
You just make it look easy.
Thank you. I hope that's the case. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's important and to just kind of, as I say, read the room. This is a conversation. I hear something about crypto or Web3 or NFTs. And, I hear these terms all the time. And it's like, I'm still lost. So I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it's funny they say that because being lost. With NFTs, I'm sure whenever you get into a conversation with people, there's three factions of it. There's the folks that love it, got in there early. There's the folks new to it that are just trying to learn more about it. And then there's the third bucket where like, where does this go? I don't understand. It's a picture I own, but I don't actually feel it. What's going on? So it's I think, to our earlier conversation, bridging that gap and bringing those people along and educating them. That's going to be part of the Hamptons Tech Week as well, the education aspect, right?
Absolutely. That's really what this whole conference is about. It's about education. And as I like to say, like, ask the questions. There are no stupid questions. If you want to understand something more, go to a panelist, talk to somebody, network. Like, I want people to feel comfortable and included and welcoming. But it's also going to be a little bit more of an intimate setting. It's not going to be thousands of people at a huge conference. It's going to be, a lot smaller, somewhere between like 350 to 500 people, over 2 days. 4 days, but the other 2 days are networking, to just kind of understand it more and be educational, and also things that you can relate to. So like if you, like you said, like talking about NFTs, you're like, wait, so I buy this and what does this mean and what is this? This is a way to be like, here's sports. Here's things that we're doing in the sports field that include NFTs and things like this. So like you can buy this and it gives you access to this, and then, and you can kind of break it down. And I find that it might be somewhat easier to understand if you take something you like or something that you're interested in, or and kind of break it down for them to be like, you like this, this is what we do. This is what this means. And like, you kind of start to understand it more. You're like, oh, I can wrap my head around this. Cool.
And there is a fine line to that, Christine, because you don't want to, you like to use the word dumb it down, but you don't want to dumb it down where the person's like, yeah, I get that. I know how computers work, right? so you need to, right? You need to slow things down. I don't use it as an example, but you need to slow things down, but not so much where you actually become offensive to somebody.
Right. Not dumb it down to the point where you're like, this is a computer.
Here's how you turn this on. This is the power button.
Yeah, no. Just slow it down to make it so that you can kind of wrap your head around it a little easier and like, because you're still learning what the terminology is. You're still learning what this all means. And just kind of slow it down a little and help you understand the fundamentals of all of this.
And the old joke is that there's no such thing as an original idea. So everyone finds an idea and then makes it their own. Was there a particular conference around the country, around the world, that you sort of emulated or took notes on, cribbed some notes? I'm like, I like the way they did it, and I'll do it here in the Hamptons. What was some of your inspirations behind Hamptons Tech Week?
Honestly, I think it really was more about wanting to do something different out here, because why not? And then also, I spent a lot of time this winter down in Miami and helping a dear friend of mine produce some events at her space. And it was a lot of tech people and conferences, and like, it was great, but I still was like, I still don't understand this. I just realized that, like, spending the time down there, meeting these people, and it was great. And you met so many interesting people, but I was like, I wish I could understand it more. But I also knew, like, doing some big tech conference out here, similar to the other ones, I don't think really would be as big as a sell as just like, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. And let's make it as educational as we can in fields that kind of affect the life out here.
So it's funny, you didn't try to do the old square peg in a round hole. You had this sort of idea for this tech thing, but you didn't want to be like a tech conference that would happen in Las Vegas or in Silicon Valley. You did it with the complete mindset that this was going to be a Hamptons-like event.
Yes. I want the community. I want it to fit into the community. And I didn't want to do the square peg in a round hole. I wanted it to feel like, okay, I can relate to this. I can understand this. I personally think with the community out here, it's important to do that because you're having the conversation, and these are things that can affect out here. These are things that we can do out here. And we call it Hampton Tech Week because my theory behind all of this was, could I have called it something else? Sure. But my thought process is technology is getting integrated into our lives on the regular basis. In 3 years from now, the whole NFT Web3 space could be obsolete, and we're talking about robots and AI. So this is a conference that I can build out annually and scale out to consistently bring in people to have conversations on how technology is getting integrated into our lives.
So, Christine, if folks want to find out more about Hamptons Tech Week, where do they have to go?
If you go to jamesLanePost.com, and in the search column, you can put Hamptons Tech Week, and all the information on Hamptons Tech Week will come up. You can also go on the Instagram handle for James Lane Post or the Instagram handle for Hamptons Tech Week.
Awesome. Cool. Anything else people need to know about Hamptons Tech Week before we sign off here, Christine?
I hope people come out and enjoy, and I look forward to having a successful event.
Awesome. Christine, thank you very much for the time. I wish I was out in the Hamptons this summer. It does sound like a blast. I'm always trying to educate myself, so I'm sure I could probably learn a few things here. So thank you very much for the time, and I wish you the best of luck on Hamptons Tech Week.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And that's it for this episode of the Forbes Books Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you take a quick second to subscribe so you automatically get new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I'd love if you left us a review so more amazing entrepreneurs like yourself can discover the show. And please, don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.